Hi everyone, welcome back, and today I'm going to be showing you a video that talks about proper load positioning, why it's proper, and common load issues. Okay, so when we talk about the load is really important because it sets us up to be explosive off the rubber. It basically makes sure that we're using all the correct muscle groups to explosively launch off the rubber, which, as we know, that's where a very large bulk of our power behind the pitch comes from. But it's also important because it sets us up to get into a good reach part of the pitch, which then sets us up to get into a good power K, which then sets us up to get into a good delivery. So being off in the load can really, it sounds silly, but it can really truly affect the entire rest of the pitch. So I'm sure you guys have heard, when we talk about the load position, you've probably heard the term sprinter's-like position. So if you really think like literally how a sprinter's gonna come off the blocks, they start down on their knees, they pick themselves up, and then they kind of launch outwards. Very similar position in pitching. Of course, we're not going to be down on the ground, unless you're doing my sprinter's drill. Okay, but the idea here is that when we're in that load position, we want to be on the balls of our feet, so our heels should be up off the ground. And this, we're talking about the end stage load position. So this is not the pre-motion. This is the end stage load position right before you're about to push off and launch off the rubber. So we want to be on the balls of our feet with our heels up off the ground, okay? So we don't want to be flat-footed. We want to have relaxed bend in both knees, okay? We want our weight loaded forward over our front foot. I like to tell my pitchers that their chest should be at the very least in line with their front knee, if not even going past it. If you see something like this, that means your pitcher is sitting too back over their back foot. You want to be loaded forward over the front foot, okay? We also want our body to be square to our target. Shoulders, hips, knees, toes, pointing straight at our target, okay? We don't want to be turned open like this. We don't want to have a huge backswing that goes up and behind our body that turns our shoulders out. That's called pre-tracking or opening the body too soon. And as I've talked about in many videos before, opening the body too soon creates a domino effect of other issues, posture issues, arm path issues, delivery issues, drive-through toe and knee issues, all stuff we don't want to deal with. So when we talk about that end stage load position, okay, if you're a pitcher who has a backswing, you want to be in that load position with your backswing going straight back, nice and relaxed on the power line. If you're a pitcher who does not have a backswing, you want to bring those arms right into your body. But you want to get to that sprinter's-like position, body nice and square, on the balls of the feet, weight forward, knees bent. That is going to make sure that we're accessing all of the correct muscle groups to be as explosive off the rubber as possible while still having good mechanics. That's key, okay? Because you can be explosive off the rubber, but have your body going forward, you could be crow hopping, and all of that affects your delivery of the pitch. So we want to get to that sprinter's-like load position, regardless of what your pre-motion is. So let's talk about pre-motions for just a second. The most common pre-motion I'd say that you see is the rock back and get forward. So you'll see something like this. Rock back and get forward. And that's fine. I personally don't love it because I've seen a lot of pitchers do that big rock back and then never get to that good load position. So a lot of times what I'll see, especially with the ones who rock back and then pick up the front toe, is they'll like load forward. That toe is still up in the air. Their back foot is totally flat. So then they end up being off timing. They're not getting to that good load position. They're not getting that good push off the rubber. If you can do a rock back and still get to that good load position, that's fine. Basically, whatever load you do, you need to get to that final stage load position. Some loads that I like, if you feel like you need to do a rock back, I like to encourage my girls to kind of start in this end stage load position, and then I kind of have them push their weight back, but I never allow their heels to touch the ground. Okay, so you see how I've done this little rock back to build momentum, but I'm still on my toes. My heels are not touching the ground, so I'm rocking back and then pushing forward and going out and delivering. That makes it so my toes are already on the ground. I'm already going to be able to push back with my heels when I come off the rubber, as opposed to this big rock back where your feet are flat. This foot's flat, you're not going to be able to use it at all. And sometimes these pitchers never get to that position where their knees are bent or their front toes in the ground. Because remember what takes us off the rubber. It's pushing back with the left foot, which then gets us more forward over the right foot, so that then or the front foot, I should say. I'm a righty, it's going to be opposite if you're a lefty, obviously. So that then this foot can push back against the rubber and we extend our hips forward so that we're going out and up. A lot of times when pitchers are flat-footed or this toes up off the ground, they just can't get that good push off the rubber. They end up either just stepping off the rubber or pushing only up, crow hopping because their weight's not loaded over their front foot. And the other issue with that big rock back where the weight gets taken off this foot is that it's much, much easier to either take an illegal first step off the rubber or land in a position where your front leg is then turned. You're able to move that foot because your weight is no longer on that foot. So that creates a lot of other mechanical issues that we don't want as well. So if you feel like you want to do a rock back, again, if you're doing a rock back and you're still able to get to that good load position, great, do that. But if you're not, you might try that rock back where you kind of stay on the balls of your feet and then load forward and push off so that you're getting to that good load position. The other one that I really have been liking is kind of starting in that forward load positioning and kind of pushing up onto the toes and then sinking down into my heels as I push off. I'm going to show you guys a slow motion of kind of what all of these loads and pre-motions look like so you can try them yourselves. But again, super, super important to get to that load position. And here's another reason that I've actually been seeing lately in a couple of my students. We need, as pitchers, this is why the launch off the rubber is difficult. We need to be able to push out and up. We can't do just one, okay? So when we come off the rubber, we need to drive ourselves outwards while at the same time extending our hips forward and getting tall and stacked. So we need to get out of this forward load position. We need to drive ourselves out and get tall. A lot of times I see one or the other. So I might see a pitcher who pushes out, but they never get tall. And again, poor posture means no whip, poor delivery. Sometimes we see leaping or crow hopping. Other times, and this is what I've kind of been seeing in some of the girls that I've done video analyses for, is that they'll initially get to that good load position, but before they push out off the rubber, they stand up. So they haven't pushed off yet, they've just stood up, so they've pulled their upper body backwards, and then they end up doing more of either like a push up, that can also create a leap or crow hop, or they'll just kind of step and reach off the rubber because they're not able to push and drive outwards because they stood up first. So that's the other reason why getting to that good load position is so important, because it's really, really important to drive out and up as we get off the rubber. Okay, so we want to push back with our drive foot, go out and extend the hips forward, load and deliver as far off the rubber as we possibly can while keeping that back foot on the ground. So let me take you through a couple of these kind of pre-motions and loads. I'll show you the big rock back. I'll show you the ones that I like kind of in slow motion so that you guys can see what they look like and try them out for yourself. We'll start with the very common rock back. So we're going to do that rock back onto the foot. Again, if you do this, that's fine as long as you get to that good load position. Okay, we're going to rock back, load forward, and deliver. Now let's take a look at the rock back where we don't allow our heels to touch the ground. Okay, so starting forward, we're going to push back, load, and go. I personally feel a lot more explosive that way because I don't have to worry about getting to that good load position. I'm kind of already in it. Now let's try the kind of relaxed push up onto the toes and drive the heels back, okay? Load, deliver. This one makes me feel nice and bouncy and springy like a sprinter. So this has been my load positioning video, good load positions, why it's a good load position. I hope you guys have found this helpful. I've got a lot more videos coming your way, and I'll talk to you soon.